A portion of today's video is sponsored by Anker. Hey everyone, Travis here, and this entire video was edited using the Apple Vision Pro. I wanted to utilize the Apple Vision Pro in a day in the life of using it for work and see what that experience was like, and it surprised me in several ways. In terms of the size of real life objects like a computer, keyboard, mouse, or even your hands, things seem normal size. Of course, you can still tell though that you're looking through cameras that are then processing real life. Now, the second aspect here is the fact that you can place apps around your environment in your space and they stay pinned where you left them. All right, we're on this side of the room right now running Carrot Weather with a 3D globe of temperature and a lot of crucial information here. I love the fact that they show when golden hour and blue hour is. That's super useful for us. And if we make our way over to the desk area over here, I have a few windows open, most notably the Mac Virtual Display for the Mac Studio. I have a Safari window open here with the Apple Vision Pro user guide, some notes just for some ideas, and if I look up, I have my music controls. So if I sit down at this setup, I can have my complete Mac Studio view up front and close, as big as I want it to be, and I can go ahead and work here, and I can easily just look around the room and see all of the other apps running. Of course, those are running on here, but the Mac itself is obviously running on its own, so when I edit, that's all happening on the Mac Studio. This definitely makes the experience feel a lot more like Minority Report, where you've got all these windows surrounding you and you can look around your environment. Now, we've also been posting a ton of content about the Apple Vision Pro on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure to follow us there. Now, the actual edit of this video took place on the Mac Studio that's on the desk right behind me, and that's of course running Final Cut Pro to finish this edit. The Mac Virtual Display feature works phenomenal, and I really like it. I didn't expect it to be that great, but I had to do that because there's no Final Cut available for Vision OS yet. Now, this video is the precursor to the full review that will be coming very shortly. This device is just so in-depth and new that I wanted to take my time and experience it to its fullest, so make sure to subscribe and look out for the full review. One of the most interesting features of using the Apple Vision Pro is the ability of using it as a virtual Mac display. So if I look over here at this MacBook Air, this is an Apple Silicon Mac, I get a Connect option. It's going to take over this display. Now I have this full life-size view of my MacBook display. Of course, by looking at the side and pinching, I can make it as small or as large as I want it to be in front of me. So if we look at the system report of this machine, it's saying that this is a sidecar display, 5120 by 2880 resolution that's being rendered by the Mac, and it looks like 2560 by 1440, which would be the same as a studio display, let's say, but my view within the Vision Pro is a 4K window that's in front of me. And the lag here is pretty much non-existent. If I click on something, it's instantaneous, and I don't feel like there's any sort of hesitation or jitteriness to the image. It's really responsive, and of course, this is all happening over AirPlay. So if I close this, I then get my view back on my MacBook. I'm gonna go ahead and close this MacBook and then go to this one. This is an Intel 16-inch MacBook Pro, and it's gonna give me the same option. So if I go ahead and connect, it's going to take over this main display, and then I get my view of my window here. Just like on the Apple Silicon Mac, this still says that it's being rendered in 5K. However, the resolution that I'm getting over AirPlay is only 3K. So regardless if you have a Apple Silicon MacBook or if you have an Intel MacBook that can run macOS Sonoma, you can still get this Mac Virtual Display option, and it's super cool just to be able to look at the screen and be able to connect to it. Now here we are on a desktop Mac setup. This is a Mac Studio, and if I look at it, I don't get the same Connect option. So within Control Center on the Vision Pro, I can select the Mac Virtual Display option here, and it will show our Mac Studio, and it now took over. And of course, I get the same level of functionality in terms of moving my window, placing this around, and the latency, like I said earlier, on the Apple Silicon Macs is basically non-existent. So if I navigate around this computer, clicking on the launch pad, clicking on Windows, moving things around, the computer feels just like it would if I was connected to an actual display. But of course, I can just go ahead and move this wherever I want it to be. And I can even have my display over here and keep working, or I could just have it right in front of me, super big. You have that functionality. So this is cool to be able to use on either a desktop or a laptop Mac. Now, there are rumors circulating right now that you'll be able to have dual displays in the future, as Apple could implement a software update that would allow for 2 Mac virtual displays, and that would be super awesome. Which, if you're traveling on the road and you only have a MacBook with you, could make productivity so much higher. With so many charging solutions available today, Anker has some of the best charging solutions available, including these 2 power banks and charging stations that are in their new MagGo line of products. Starting with the charging stations first, I really dig the 8-in-1 MagGo charging station. This thing is loaded with charging options and ports, featuring a MagSafe charging pad, 2 USB-C ports, 2 USB-A ports, and 3 AC outlets. Even though it has all these ports, it has a super sleek design, being able to charge your phone up front and have all the ports in the back, complementing your setup and keeping things clutter-free. In addition to the 8-in-1 charger is this 3-in-1 MagGo wireless charging station. My favorite part about this charging station is that it has a built-in Apple Watch charger that is Apple certified. And if you have an Apple Watch Series 9, it allows for fast charging, so 30 minutes of charging will get you 48% battery life. When it comes to the power banks, these are the MagGo 10K and 6.6K. The 10K model features 10,000 milliamp hours worth of battery life, which can charge an iPhone 15 Pro 1.8 times over, and its built-in kickstand makes it really convenient on a desk. The smart display shows useful information like remaining power usage and how long it will take to recharge the battery itself. Last up is the MagGo 6.6K battery bank, and it's foldable from 30 to 65 degrees, making it ideal for watching videos or taking a video call. All of the Anker MagGo products that I talked about today in this video are listed in the video description below, and thank you so much to Anker for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Another really cool feature about the Mac Virtual Display is the ability to use the Mac's keyboard, mouse, or trackpad to control the Vision Pro. So if I go ahead and start typing here, of course this controls this Mac, but if I drag my mouse past the window, I can go ahead and use this Mac's trackpad to control the Apple Vision Pro, and I can use its keyboard as well. So if I go to monkey type, this is running on the Vision Pro, not on this Mac, but this is using handoff to be able to use my keyboard and mouse to control it. So be able to go there, and then if I go back to my Mac, I can have my trackpad view and just start using my computer again. Super cool to be able to go back and forth between your Mac Virtual Display and your Vision Pro, but still be able to utilize your keyboard and trackpad for both. Now, the part here that surprised me the most is the fact that the latency was incredibly low. It's super responsive for what basically is an AirPlay display. I was able to edit this entire video using Final Cut Pro inside of the Mac Virtual Display feature, and it didn't feel like it hindered my work performance at all. Now, the experience on this may be different depending on the user, their configuration, or their environment, but for me, it actually worked really well. Now, this is using Final Cut, and I'm sure for audio production workflows where latency is even more of a crucial component in the workflow, like if you're running Logic Pro or Ableton Live, that might be a different story. But in terms of running Final Cut in my experience, I didn't notice anything abnormal. Now, let's say if you're using this with a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, you can literally make your Mac's display life-size. Of course, you can adjust the size of the Mac Virtual Display, whether you want it really tiny in front of you or if you want it gigantic like the size of a wall, but that changes how you can use your MacBook on the go. Now, let's say you're traveling and you want to work from your MacBook and not have to work on the internal display. You now put on your Vision Pro and have a giant screen in front of you. And in most cases, people aren't going to carry a giant second monitor to work from when they travel, so this actually solves that issue. Another aspect to this entire experience is the image quality, which I find to be very good. Of course, there's going to be certain oddities while wearing this. It all depends on your lighting conditions, how the environment looks around you, and when you're looking at a window and you move your head a little bit, there is a little bit of bounce. And additionally, if you tilt your head and look to the very corner of your eye, there's a slight amount of chromatic aberration, but none of that gets in the way. In terms of utilizing this for what it's intended for, looking straight ahead at that window in front of you, the image quality is very good and the color representation is awesome. So I didn't feel like editing wearing the Apple Vision Pro and using this feature hindered my performance or the way that Final Cut appeared. It appeared as normal to me. Now, the only thing I would recommend here is the fact that the Apple Vision Pro is tied to a battery, and I would put that on wall power while you're working. Not only is this going to be beneficial if you want to move around after the fact, you'll have a full charge, but if you're going to be working for an extended period of time, you're just not going to drain the battery. Now, using the Apple Vision Pro for over a week now, I will say that it's actually a very valuable tool for work. Even at its price point, as it's a dedicated device that has its own set of apps, like let's say if you were to buy an M2 equivalent Mac and you were to buy a monitor. If you were gonna buy an equivalently spec'd MacBook Air with 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage and a 5K Apple Studio display, you're actually getting pretty close to the price of the Apple Vision Pro. And the fact that the Apple Vision Pro is also its own dedicated device that can run its own apps and experiences adds even more value to that. Now, I'm not saying that the Apple Vision Pro is cheap by any stretch of the word. It's $3,500 starting and can go way up from there. But all things considered on what it's capable of doing right now with its first OS version, and it's a first generation piece of hardware, it's super cool. Now, whether or not I would use this on the daily basis, you're gonna have to watch the review for. Now, would you utilize the Apple Vision Pro for work or productivity where you could have a giant display in front of you and have all the rest of your apps surrounding your world? That's dependent on you. Comment down below your thoughts on this subject. Thank you so much for watching. This is Travis, and have a good night.